We have a lot of things to talk about. I wanted to talk about the vagaries of baseball, and because a couple of things happened in the past few days. And let me begin. A left-hander from the Phillies, Jesus Luzardo, started against the Mets on Thursday. The Mets banged him around. 4 runs and 5 hits in the first inning. You know what happened after that? He pitched a perfect game for the next 7 innings. Is that amazing? They banged him around in the first and scored 4. Then he pitched a perfect game. Then the Phillies came from behind and won it 6-4. Last night, Texas came into Citi Field, but they were without their 3 best hitters, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and Adolis Garcia. And also without Nathan Eovaldi, but he's been hurt before. Anyway, without Eovaldi, without Marcus Semien, without Corey Seager, they played 2 youngsters that I had never heard of. Now, obviously, they're called up. Once September comes, you can call up more people. And they had 2 people, and the second baseman was Cody Freeman, and the center fielder was Michael Hellman. So the Mets started Jonah Tong, and he couldn't get out of the first inning. And when he was about to get out of the inning with 2 outs, both Freeman and Hellman had base hits. Hellman had a big double, 2-run double down the line, and that led Texas to the victory. But the vagaries, when you see people predict baseball, laugh at them. No one can predict baseball. Not possible. Not possible. One other item, this has to do with New York. Oh, is this a New York item? You know, I've said about 1,000 times, well, you know, when you're on the air, as long as I was on the air, Jack Parr allegedly quit the Tonight Show. Well, he said, I've told every story I knew 3 times. Well, trying doing 4 hours a day in baseball for 162 games for 35 years, and I've told everything 8 times. Anyway, I always say about New York, if one of your teams lose in any of the 4 sports I follow, basketball, baseball, hockey, football, if your team loses a game, that team becomes the worst team in the history of sports. Now, win a game, championship. There's no middle ground in New York, and that's why I had to laugh. I'm sure you did too. After one giant game, one game in a 17-game season, already they want Dable to bench Wilson. Russell Wilson's been a great quarterback in the league for years, and give the quarterback assignment to a kid who's just out of Mississippi. Who knows how he's going to play? He did look great in preseason. You should never accept anything that happens in preseason. In baseball for all these years, I have said, in spring training, let's say you play 30 games. Let's say you win all 30 games. Then you start the season. All you have to do is lose the first game, and no one will remember the 30 wins. Conversely, if you lose all 30 games, and they're calling for your scalp, if you're the manager or the general manager. Anyway, if you lose all 30 games and then you win your first game, no one remembers the 30 games. So that's why never pay attention to spring training or exhibition football or basketball. I've told this story before on the baseball games. I don't think I've told it here. A buddy of mine just passed away a year or so ago, Gene Shue, all-star guard, and the coach of the Bullets when I was with the Bullets, and we became friends, tennis partners, yada, 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 yada. So one year I'm doing the Bullets on TV. I'm not there in the exhibition season, and Gene Shue, when I saw him, he said, I got to tell you this. He said, we've been playing terribly. And he said, I went into the locker room after the last game, and I called over my Hall of Fame front line, Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes, Bobby Dandridge, And Gene said to them, if I didn't know your names, you couldn't make my team. And they said, no, Gene, we're not playing. We're just running up and down to get our win. We're not trying to play. So think of that. Even if they're playing their players aren't playing. So that's what I have to say about the Giant quarterback situation. Give them a chance. I mean, it's one game. But in New York, we don't fool around in New York. In New York, we don't fool. So, what would you like me to do? Shall we have? Oh, okay. I'll do that read, as we say. Read, meaning you have to read a spot. So I'm going to read the spot, but I have something to say after it, which is more important, much more important. Well, here's how the spot reads. It is high, it is far, it is crystal clear. Hear every moment with Phonak Lyric, where better hearing hits it out of the park. Go see Dr. Shelley today at NYC Hearing. NYC Hearing, and hear the world again. Now I have something to say, which I think you will love. Let's say you're thinking about this. Let's say your hearing is going a little bit. Mine has. You might not be as old as I am, and also I've been on the air for 65 years, so I've been blasting what they call gain volume into my ears for 65 years. I guess I'm going deaf. I tried a lot of different items, very expensive. I don't mind spending the money. None of them worked. And then I was sent, thankfully, by wonderful ABC to Dr. Shelley. And it's the greatest advancement I've had physically since my knees were done. They have a little instrument, tiny, and you put it toward your ear. You don't even get it all the way in, and you hear a beep. That means your hearing aid is on. And at night, when you want to shut it off, you again put this little thing in your ear, almost not in your ear. You just put it there, and you hear beep, beep. That means it's off. And this thing stays in your ear. You can shower, you can sleep with it, and I think they want it to go like 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and then you come back and they replace it. Anyway, it's the best thing I can absolutely say without fear of address at all. I can't tell you how great this is. I'm wearing one right now, and tonight when I'm ready to go to bed, after all the baseball and football, I will put this little thing toward my ear. Beep, beep. That's it. You take it out. I mean, it's the easiest thing, and I'm a very unmechanical person. Even I can run this. So I must tell you, this is not just a commercial. This is the real thing. It's done wonders for me, and I can't love it more. Well, Dom Amore is standing by, and we're going to go to Dominic in just a moment. We'll pay some bills, and we'll get back. Where are we going to get back? At 77 WABC.
This is the John Sterling Show. Now, here's John Sterling.
And we go to the 77 WABC actioncarting.com phone line, New York City's premier waste and recycling provider. Here's a good buddy of mine. I mentioned before, he is the 7-time winner of the best sports writer in Connecticut. His name is Dom Amore. Hello, Dom. How are you doing?
Hey, John. How you doing? Good afternoon. And I'll remind readers, it's a small state.
Well, you're very nice to say that, but I mean that's really something to win the Connecticut Sports Writer 7 different times.
It means a lot to me because people in the profession vote for it. And, you like to have the respect of your peers. Right.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the greatest thing when your peers tell you that you really enjoyed something. I was with the Hawks just before I got the Yankee job in the summer of '88. And the trip was exhausting. and we were really the ugly Americans, and but we wanted so much. And at the end of the trip, the Russian assigned to us said, "I will personally throw you out of the country." so, those are the kind of the tales that you tell and experience. Dom, your thoughts about Dom Amori writes for the Hartford Courant, and Hartford is exactly between New York and Boston. It's 100 miles either way. Yeah. And so fans are Red Sox fans and Yankee fans. And are you and all your Red Sox fans up there surprised at how well the Red Sox have done?
Yeah, they were very pessimistic early in the season and going into the season. They were not enthusiastic about the moves that Craig Breslow made as GM. But, I thought, sometimes the best moves are the ones you don't make. And I thought he did a great job of not maybe trading for people who were not going to help them, of maybe staying put with what he had rather than maybe picking up. We've seen obviously from the Yankees side, they picked up a lot of relief pitchers, but, one of them's in the minor leagues and one of them is struggling. And, I thought he did a great job early and at the trade deadline of making smaller moves, but moves that really helped and made a difference. And I think all of his three of his postseason or his offseason acquisitions made the All-Star game, none of whom were expected to. So, I think, they are surprised, but I think they're starting to come around to, Craig Breslow's way of doing things. He's a pretty sharp guy.
He went to Yale, he sure is, and a very good lefty pitcher. Not a great pitcher, but a guy who experienced baseball. There really isn't a team, Don, would you agree? There isn't a team in the American League that grabs you by the throat and says, we're going to win. I think it's as even. It's very good for baseball. So many teams have a chance.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I don't know that there's a team in the National League that really grabs you. Milwaukee had that long winning streak, and they separated themselves a little bit, but they've kind of come back to the pack, and Philadelphia has a chance to overtake them. And the Dodgers have certainly not been unbeatable, nor has San Diego. So I don't know that there's any team in the game this year that is going to win 100 games and be that kind of odds-on favorite. I think it is very even. And the thing, our friend Susan was saying on the radio the other night how so many teams have just been either unbeatable for a couple of months and then terrible for a couple of months, right? I mean, the Yankees had the best record in baseball for 2 months. Then they had the worst record in baseball, even worse than Colorado almost for 2 months. And now then they had the best record for a month or so. And, the reason is because the way bullpens are used today, John, you've seen it. When you're winning a lot of games, you're using your top relievers again and again and again, overusing them, overexposing them. And then when their arm gets a little bit tired, now you start losing. You start, and so teams, you have these big swings in the standings, and big swings with every team really has this incredible long winning streaks and long losing streaks because so much depends on the bullpen. And when you're winning, your bullpen gets used.
Boy, do I agree with you. And also on a daily basis, we're seeing it here in New York where guys don't even go 6 innings. Well, if they don't go 6 innings, you got to fill 3 innings or 4 innings, and you do that enough, and your bullpen is going to show wear and tear. Even the Dodgers, who, if everyone was healthy, they would look on paper to be the best team. But they're not healthy, and they get beaten all the time, and they get beaten by bad teams all the time. And San Diego, a team that you would figure make a great run at the Dodgers, they were swept at home by Baltimore, was in last place in the East, and that's going on throughout baseball.
Yeah, everywhere in baseball, and the few teams that are out of it are not in contention. A lot of them are still playing hard. I think Baltimore is trying to redeem themselves for the disappointing season that they had. And, the Rockies became a tough team in the National League, or a tough out simply because they were playing so hard to avoid the ignominy of finishing worse than the White Sox, and good for them. They're not gonna be worse than the White Sox of a year ago. So yeah, everyone has been tough to beat. And when you catch teams at the wrong time, like when the Yankees played the Marlins,
they got swept.
They got swept.
Right.
So yeah, it's well, as a wise man said many, many times, John, you can't predict baseball.
I hope to meet someone like that one day. One thing, there is a baseball cliche that fits, and this is what I use. People wonder, why are the Mets doing what they're doing? I use this, I hope it's right. I've been hearing it all my life. You're never as good as you look when you're winning, or as bad as you look when you're losing. Do you subscribe to that?
Oh, very, very, very true. And you see it every year. I mean, the 62 Mets had winning streaks at some point, and the 98 Yankees had losing streaks at some point. So,
yes.
That's another old saying in baseball is that you're going to win 50 and you're going to lose 50, and it's the other 62 that matter.
Yes. That really is true.
Yeah.
You want to look at things on paper and say on paper, but as the cliche goes, they don't play the games on paper.
That's right. Yep. Nor do they play them on a computer.
No, I don't have that worry about a computer, but how are things up in Connecticut as they look at their big basketball season? I mean, it's amazing that the little state of Connecticut up in the Northeast could have such great women and men's basketball teams at their university.
Well, I always say that, basketball is a lot like pizza. Connecticut didn't invent it, but we do serve it up a little better than the rest of the world right now. So we have the best pizza in New Haven, and I know I'm asking for trouble saying this on a New York station, but we've got the best pizza, and we've got for the moment the best college basketball. And the big story basketball wise in Connecticut, John, actually is not even UConn, but it's the long drawn out fight to keep the WNBA in Connecticut, which this is one of the few places where the WNBA took hold. And in a lot of ways, the franchise here saved or helped save the league by taking that Orlando franchise and making a go of it. And now, of course, there are a couple of cities trying to take the team away, and WNBA is trying to force it. So, obviously, Connecticut's very serious about its basketball, and that extends even to the WNBA, and that's I don't know how that's going to turn out, but right now it's a big fight, and the WNBA probably should be happy that there are actually people fighting over franchises when not too long ago they were fighting to keep franchises solvent.
Oh, absolutely. Caitlin Clark has done a lot for that league, and believe me, I know the difference between chartering and taking commercial, because it wasn't until the 90s that basketball started chartering. Baseball's always chartered. It's very tough. I get the Boston Globe, Dom, because it has a great sports section, like the Post, and Boston wants that franchise, and you can't seem to get it. And then they're thinking of moving that franchise to Hartford. What is the latest?
Well, the latest is the state of Connecticut is trying to get involved with the WNBA, and if whatever their objections are to moving the team to Hartford, the state of Connecticut, which, I mean, to go back to the beginning, the Mohegan Tribe bought the franchise for $10 million 20 years ago, and they've been offered $325 million by both Boston interests and Hartford interests, and the WNBA wants instead to send the team to Houston, which doesn't make any sense to me because Boston, the Connecticut Sun games are on TV in Boston. They've played games in Boston and sold out. So there's an existing fan base ready to embrace it in a major NBA market where they could be paired with the Celtics. So that makes a lot of sense. Hartford wants to get the team out of the 8,000-seat arena that the league is outgrown on the casino, tribal land, bring it to a refurbished arena downtown Hartford. And Connecticut's really pulling out every stop that it can to make that happen. But the league is saying that they can't relocate without permission. And I think almost anybody would have to see the logic that moving within Connecticut is not really relocating. You know, the New York Liberty moved from Madison Square Garden to Westchester and then to Brooklyn. So that wasn't considered relocating. So I don't know why moving from Montville, Connecticut to Hartford, Connecticut is relocating. I don't even think Boston would be relocating. It's 100 miles away, and there's no other team in New England. There are only 13 teams in the league. Each team's territory should be very, very broad. So it doesn't make any sense for the WNBA to turn its back on an existing fan base and tell them, well, you're going to have to wait 10 years for an expansion team, but we're going to send this team to Houston, where they had a championship team that couldn't be sustained there. They had to move out. So I'm mystified by the NBA/WNBA posture on this. And as much as I would like to see the team stay in Connecticut, Boston might make more business sense. But Houston, which seems to be what the league wants, that makes zero sense to me, not legally or in terms of business.
Me too. And now since I don't live in Connecticut, I think they ought to go to Boston and pair up with the Celtics. And the Celtics just been bought for $6 billion, so they got some money behind them. That's what I would do. But Dom, no one's asking me.
Well, they've played 2 games there, one each year, and they sold out the TD Garden Arena, over 20,000.
Oh, it's great what's happening.
I don't know if they would do that for a whole year, but with only 22 games, the tickets become very hot. When Clark comes in, when Paige Beckers comes in, when Asia Wilson comes in, there's going to be, and there'll be, soon Juju Watkins will be coming in, and there's going to be a chance that they would sell out all 22 home games wherever they go, but particularly in Boston. So, Boston, makes sense. As much as I'd hate to see them leave Connecticut, I couldn't necessarily argue with Boston, but I can and will and do argue with with Houston. That just makes no sense.
Well, as a top-notch writer in the Hartford Courant, I think you could do a lot more than I can. But if I was doing it, I would only do things on a financial level. How are you going to draw? I would go to Boston in a minute. Now, one more thing with you, Dom. Mm-hmm. You have to start calling our people and get a dinner together, okay?
Oh, you got it. You got it. In
getting
fact,
hungry to think about it.
Peter Caldera and I were together the other night, and we were talking about sounding you out about some dates. So we'll be together either breaking some bread or cutting some steak very soon in Manhattan.
Well, good. Thank you very much for coming on. You are so good. I guarantee you will be on this show a whole lot more. So thank you, Dom.
Great, John. Look forward to it, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Upton Bell is upcoming. Going to talk a lot of football. Any business I have to do here? No. I've done the yes, and I've done the yes. Okay, we're all set. Well, let's get back after some commercial messages here at 77 WABC. Before I bring on my next guest, I know I mentioned this before. I'm only doing it because it's so true. It's so accurate. I swear to you, this is not, quote unquote, a commercial read. It's a real thing. It's solved my hearing problems. Absolutely solved them. I couldn't recommend it more. I would recommend it 100%. Here is a longtime friend of mine and a football guy among all things, Upton Bell. And Uppy, how are you today, my boy?
Still excited, John, from the Sunday night game between Buffalo and Baltimore. Maybe the best regular season game I've ever seen.
Whoa. And you've seen a lot.
Over 800 regular season games and probably another 100 to 200 playoff games. But what made this game so special was, number one, it was the first game of the season. So you expect in this NFL era that there are going to be a lot of mistakes. Guys aren't quite in shape because of the rules at training camp. But this lived up to everything that I would see in a playoff game. It had two quarterbacks that are going to go to the Hall of Fame eventually. They had up and down the field excitement. They had probably the best running back in football still today, Derrick Henry. They had the Baltimore defense, which is considered one of the best in the league. And yet the game ends up 41-40, with most people leaving either their TV sets or leaving the stadium because there was another record in the game that actually maybe will never be equaled again. And with 4 minutes left in the game, 15 points were scored to bring Buffalo back in the game again. And the greatest runner in the game, at 151 yards, Derrick Henry, was the guy that keyed the ending of it by fumbling. So there were so many elements in it. Both Jackson and Allen, great runners. Rocket arms, intelligent. Both of them don't need, by the way, which is a pet peeve with me. Both of them, and of course, the great Kansas City quarterback, none of them need for plays to be called for them. They have a sense of the field and a sense of the game like very few. So all of the elements were there for what, again, I said is probably the best game I've seen, particularly in the first game of the season.
Yeah, I thought it was a great game, too. I am a great fan of Josh Allen, except there are times when I see Lamar Jackson play, and I think, gee, no one can stop him. No one can catch him. And have you noticed, Upton, that Lamar Jackson is not spooked by a defensive player being 2 or 3 steps away from him? He could just run away from him and does all the time. And how foolish was Tennessee to give up on Derrick Henry?
Well, yeah, what you're right. And a lot of teams make mistakes, and they get rid of them. They want to shed payroll. They want to do so many different things. And it was dumb because when you have a guy like Derrick Henry, and you've got probably the best running quarterback in NFL history.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And you have that type of situation, and you have a damn good passing game, pretty good receivers, a good offensive line, and by the way, maybe the best defense in the NFL. And yet, this is the thing that's so fascinating about football. And of course, you did Yankee games and seen everything. But in football, just one play changes everything. And yet, here's maybe the best defense in the AFC, with the best running quarterback, with the best runner, with good receivers, and yet they lose to the guy who I consider Superman at 250. I mean, think of how many quarterbacks are that size with that rocket and arm. And the other thing is, he's not quite as nifty as Jackson, John, but Allen is a force when he runs with a football. Think of somebody coming at you, 250 pounds coming at you. I mean, I know it's the NFL, but you want to get hit with a guy like that. Now, it's interesting because when he first came up, a lot of people here thought they knew what they're talking about, said this guy's stupid, he has a lot of ability, he's got the great size, maybe the best size we've ever seen, but he's just a dumb guy. Well, he ain't so dumb now. In fact, he can't get over the hump to Kansas City, but ironically, the Ravens can't get over the hump to the Bills.
Yeah.
It's an incredible setup here.
Yeah, well, they call that horses for courses. I guess, first of all, let's talk about Buffalo, which you were talking about beautifully, because they play here on Sunday, tomorrow. I get mixed up on days. But Anyway, it's interesting whenever you see Buffalo. I love Josh Allen, and it's fun to see him. But that's a great test for the Jets tomorrow.
You know, I watched the Jets game, and I really like their quarterback. I think that what happened to him was, he was drafted high by the Bears, number one choice by the Bears. Then they gave up on him. He went to Pittsburgh. They gave up on him because they wanted Aaron Rodgers. But I can tell you, Justin Fields really played well on Sunday. I think the Jets might have found their quarterback. I like their new coach. And if Woody Johnson could stay the hell out of the mix, he and his kid, maybe, just maybe, John, they could be damn good. I don't think it's going to be any layup for the Bills tomorrow. And what you have to be really careful of when you play an emotional game like that, your first game of the season, and everybody is anointing you on probably the greatest regular season comeback of all time. And then you come into New York. The Jets, by the way, have always given him a hard time and Buffalo a hard time. And yet you have a guy like Fields who can run. And I mean, that's what the modern quarterback is today now. They get bigger. They get faster. A lot of them have great arms. And they all can run, the really good ones that are coming out of college. The one thing that they don't have, and I think this is what happened to Fields. When you're in college today, the coach calls everything. I mean, you don't have to do a damn thing except run the play. And you're not used to the defenses. You're just getting by in your athletic ability. I think college has really done a disservice to themselves and to the kids for the pros. Now, they don't give a damn about that. But on the other hand, these guys come in with great talent. Drake May has terrific talent. He's still a rookie. I mean, he makes all sorts of mistakes because he's never called a play for himself. So I think that game tomorrow is going to be a damn good game.
I bet it will be. The Jets haven't won in so long. Well, you know what New York is like. I kidded before about it. When you lose a game, you're the worst team in history in that sport. When you win a game, championship. So, and your dad, you were talking about, Buffalo might lose that game to the Jets. Remember, your dad was one who said, I want, after 2 games, everyone in the league to be 1-1.
Correct. And you know something? I got a call from one of the major writers at USA Today. He said, I never knew that it was Bert Bell that said on any given Sunday, any team can beat any other team. And it was because of the way he scheduled things. He ran the schedule. There's no computer for Bert Bell. Now, there were less teams in the league. But that, my brother Bert, who you knew, actually took that and protected it legally so nobody else could use it. And the famous movie that they wanted to use on any given Sunday, it was just any given Sunday instead of on. So he knew what he was doing, and the league now schedules some top games in the beginning of the season, but there are 32 teams now. I mean, you can't please them all. But what I do notice is a trend where because of TV, because of the streaming services, because they have to satisfy everybody, there are more and more good games in the first couple of weeks than there's ever been in the past. Usually you build up to the big games by mid-season. That isn't true anymore. A lot of the best games are now in the first couple of weeks, and ironically, that's when teams are just beginning to learn how to play again because of the collective bargaining agreement that limits how many practices you can have. Listen, when you and I, when you were at the Colts, when I was at the Colts and used to come out to practice, we scrimmage practically every day or some form of scrimmage in Westminster at training camp. Now you can't touch anybody. And I think it's to the detriment. You wonder why so many players are getting hurt? Yes, they're bigger, stronger, quicker, faster. The speed of the game is incredible, but they never hit anybody. They limit padded practices. So I see more and more, I call them card-offs, John. More and more at the beginning of the season, guys are going out. I mean, there have been 8 or 10 in the first week that won't play the rest of the year and maybe never will play again. I blame that on the Players Association and what they've agreed to. I also will tell you this. Packers have a big win. They beat Detroit Sunday. Now they got to come back and play again on Thursday against Washington. And I will tell you, I absolutely love their defense. I think they're going to be, they have a damn good shot. Now it's early to go to the Super Bowl, but they've got to play on Thursday. And I remember going all the way back to my years with the Colts and later with the Patriots. And I would purposely ask players, I'd say, how long does it take you to recover, get ready to play after you've played on Sunday? They said, if we're lucky, by Saturday. So think about this.
Yeah, I believe it, and I also believe what you say. Now, one thing, though, we're seeing this, Upton, in all sports. The amount of injuries are amazing. And before we go to a spot, I'll lay this on you. One of my favorites. In 1927, now the Yankees did have a great team, one of the 3 or 4 best teams. They broke camp with 25 players. And at the end of the year, they had the same 25 players. No one went on. They may not have been an injured list then, but no one went on it if there was one. So, a lot more football talk. We're going to talk about Kansas City and others when we return with Upton Bell in just a moment, right here on 77 WABC. We have as our guest Upton Bell, and we are talking football. Uppy, as you well know, you know everything I know. We've been friends 60 years. So.
Yeah.
But they say that in America, we build you up to knock you down. And so everyone has been in love with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Swift and Taylor Swift. But they can't wait to knock them down. Now, is Kansas City going on the other side?
Oh, I think so. And the guy that I noticed, particularly from the opening game, Kelce has really slowed down.
Yeah.
And he was never a great blocker, but he wasn't blocking anybody in that game. But the other thing is, and I will say that there are 4 young, great quarterbacks that I think will all go to the Hall of Fame. And there's Patrick Mahomes, there's Jackson, and, of course, Allen. And the 4th guy is Joe Burrow, who I love.
Me too.
I mean, if he wasn't with that cheap outfit in Cincinnati, and I've known the Browns forever, I mean, a nickel to them is a lot. But when you look at what's happened to Kansas City, and it happens to all of them sooner or later because it's set up now. There are no really great teams over a period of time. There are no Packers. There are no Colts. There are no, great, in the past, Cleveland Browns. You're never going to get that again because, number one, you have 32 teams. Half of them stink. But it's a long season, 17 games, and they want to go to 18. But back to the situation, when you look at Kansas City, when you have 2 Patriot players that they got rid of that are your top receivers, they're in trouble. Now, I will say this. If you wanted to pick one player that had it all, that could get by with I would say, a little bit better than average talent. And by the way, did last year. That's why they got croaked by the Eagles, is that they just weren't very good. They kept escaping game after game. Remember some of the endings, and you go to yourself and you say, what the hell was this? How the hell did they win that game? But Mahomes is such a is such a good runner. And again, he isn't quite Allen's size, but he is 6'3" and maybe 210, 215, like that. But he, to me, is a guy that you would, and I know that Andy Reid is the guru that calls all the plays. Patrick Mahomes doesn't need plays called for him. He has that sixth sense that very few quarterbacks have. So can he carry them? They rebuilt their offensive line pretty good. They have no receivers. They have decent running backs. But he makes, if it wasn't Patrick Mahomes on that team, I would pick them. They might lose 10, 12 games. And that might be an exaggeration, but that's how much he means to them. And, of course, with Andy Reid, and their defense is still fairly good, but, boy, they didn't look very good to me the first time out. And maybe that's, it'll take time for them, to kind of get readjusted, which it does because, again, the collective bargaining agreement. But they would be the team that I would say are in more trouble than the other ones. I think you're going to see Buffalo and Baltimore at the end. And the question is, can either one get over the hump, particularly Baltimore, who has done everything to win, and they've lost the last 2 or 3 years. But I think Kansas City is an endangered species right now.
Can anyone put a challenge into Philadelphia? And by the way, we're talking about Kansas City. That's a great late game tomorrow. Philadelphia is at Kansas City. And anyway, what I asked you was, can anyone overcome Philadelphia in the NFL, NFC?
I think there are a few, maybe Green Bay, maybe, but that'll happen at the end of the season. The one quarterback that does not get his due is Jalen Hurts. He isn't quite at that level of the 3 or 4 people we mentioned, but boy, he has come on. He is a damn good quarterback. And, I was talking to a person in Philly about him the other day, and he said, you know what, the difference between Jalen Hurts and these other superstars is Jalen Hurts, if the coaches say you got to run the football, you can't be running around, you can't throw it, he will run the football. He will call the running play. He does what it takes to win, and to me is very, very underrated. He's a terrific athlete. He's not quite the passer, although he has a good arm that the other 3 guys are. But he's a very unique player, and he's got terrific confidence around him. And, of course, he's got the Giants cast-off running with him. So when you have a quarterback like that and a runner like that and a damn good offensive line and pretty good wide receivers, I think the 2 best teams, and it's just early in the season right now, in the NFC that I've seen are the Packers. I mean, Micah Parsons, he's not far behind, if he stays healthy, from Mr. Taylor.
Whoa.
He is not that far behind him. So, I mean, that's quite a thing when you look at it. Their defense really shut Detroit down. A lot of people thought, we're going to be the team this year. And their quarterback, Love, is a pretty good quarterback. He's not great, but he's pretty good. He's in that next level. But when you think of Lawrence Taylor, think of Micah Parsons, if he remains healthy. And
that's some compliment, huh?
That havoc that even if he doesn't get to them, they have to have 1 or 2 people on him at all times. I counted on Monday night whether he got to the passer or not. He was in that backfield, and force things 7, 8 times. That's a lot for anybody, especially if you're getting double teamed or you put a big offensive tackle on him. But the other thing is the quarterback, if you're a defense, what you want to do is you want that quarterback to think about you all the time. Where's that son of a bitch coming from? Is he coming from the right side? Is he coming from the left side? And every time, and the announcers were saying it, I could see it on my screen. I said, this guy is such a factor even if he doesn't get to the quarterback. Because if you have a quarterback thinking about you all the time, and particularly if you're in the shotgun, it isn't like you're under center, but if you're in the shotgun and you're afraid of a guy getting to you when you're 6 or 7 yards back, and you know what a factor that defense is.
Yeah, you made a comment about Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and they're thought of in the league as being very short with cheap. And many years ago, 1,000 years ago, Jimmy Powers in the news used to call Branch Rickey El Cheapo. Well, anyway, there was a writer in town, Hondo. He was great, and because they were cheap, he called them the Bangwads instead of the Bangwads. So, Upton, we have to run. We have things to do, and things to do mean commercial things to do. But I can tell you this, my boy, you will be on this show a whole lot. You might be going to the Hall of Fame just through this show. So thank you for coming on.
I'm with a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I'm with a Hall of Famer, so great.
Okay. So thank you, and as they say, come on back, okay?
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Upton Bell knows his subject. Yee. That was the 77 WABC ActionCarting.com phone line, New York City's premier waste and recycling provider. For me, this show is such a joy. Obviously, it's very easy to do because I always put friends on who can talk and have opinions and know their subject. And that was the subject today with Don Amore and Upton Bell. And we will see you, I guess, next Saturday. Not I guess. We will see you next Saturday. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Upcoming is our old buddy Vinny Madugno, who is going to sing and dance his way into your heart, I guarantee. And then next week, we will come back. Don't forget about the hearing. I don't have to do this. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm telling you, it's the greatest thing I've ever had and solved all my hearing problems. So think about that. And thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks to Jonas Jackson, Vincent Los Pinuso, and, of course, the Rich Rattabali. Thank you. This is John Sterling. It's been a pleasure.